Anyone a Fish is back, episode 11. Before we get into today's or tonight's guest, which is very, very much anticipated.
Greatly anticipated.
But we've had a lot of feedback already, and we've not really put it out there who's on. So we've had a special request for a sponsor for this one-off episode. It's Platinum Paving from Greenock. They are a local business that's they're moulded in the community. They do a lot of work for kind of sponsoring local football teams. I think they're well in with the armed forces kind of side of the game as well. They've just took on a brand new contract with Starbucks to lay down the new
new site in Greenock, mate. They're going to leave every paving stone in it.
So they're going to be flying. So they're the company to be around if you're wanting some paving done. But the only thing they can do is sort that heater Jordans it.
I think this needs a miracle, mate. Anyway, I'm fucked.
But we'll not drag this out because I'm excited for this. This guest is somebody who I admire for having the balls to stand up and do what's right. It's Alex Cairnie. How you doing, big man?
I'm fine. First of all, I need to apologise. I'm late. I thought it was 8 o'clock.
Not at all, man.
Because I don't read stuff properly. My head's full of, broken bottles and crashed cars. But we're here eventually, and we've been talking about 5 or 6 months now, haven't we?
Aye.
And we've been busy, and I've been on the road, and you guys have been flat out. But I felt like I was putting these off a lot, and so I apologise. That wasn't. I've been flat out. So
no,
we're here now anyway, aren't we? We're
glad to have you here now, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's no secret to who you are now. You're no shy. You don't hide away.
No.
You're very, very out there at what you do, and what you do I strongly agree with. I totally admire what you do. It's went back now since 2000 and probably 19 you burst on the kind of social scene.
Yeah, that's when it kind of blew up. Yeah, it started, obviously, I'm not aware if I talk much about the initial Gavin Hill stuff.
Mm.
It's been quite fast, because when I look back at the time that's passed, I don't feel like it was that long ago when I was doing it. But a lot's happened since then, and obviously I've gone a lot further down the rabbit hole into what goes on in Scotland and in the UK in general behind the scenes, and I've created probably a bit of a rod for my own back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe created a monster as well, but I'm absolutely fine with that. I realised during it all how comfortable I was with conflict. The pressure of it.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me in the slightest. It cost me dearly. Cost me a lot. Cost me business. Cost me financially a great deal. Friendships. Other things, relationships. Mm-hmm. Some people just don't want to align to it. It's too taboo for them. Maybe I'm too controversial for them. I've been told that I'm controversial. I genuinely don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do yourself a disservice these days if you have a voice or a platform and you don't use it.
Mm-hmm. Aye.
And I think I would rather be on this side of the fence than that, with the people standing looking the other way and saying nothing. I'm incapable of looking the other way. Mm-hmm. I've realised that. Probably took me a long time to admit that, but I realised that I'm incapable of looking the other way when I know something is not right, or somebody is incapable of, defending themselves, so to speak, or can't fight their own fight. Mm. Why would you not help somebody? Why would you not help somebody that's that needs a punt up?
Right. So see, you don't see enough of that these days as well, as you're saying. Too many people will look after what's theirs instead of looking after who needs help, where help's needed. Because you could talk about Gavin Hill, it's out there. I think everybody I've spoke to knows it was my missus that she's like, have you seen this? Talking about when you first came on, I was like, no, I was hooked on it because nobody does that. Nobody goes out there and puts themselves at risk to show exactly what's happening. Obviously there was two-sided. You've got people who are saying that's bullshit, it's this and that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me, this is my personal take on that. I couldn't give a fuck about people like that. For me, I worked up there on drainage, and didn't see what you've seen, but I'm telling you now, that place is it was a cesspit for stuff like that. And when I seen you were out doing that, I thought, here, this has got to go big, and it should have. It should have been there.
It did go big very quickly. I think there was about 7 million views on those videos in a couple of weeks.
That's mad, isn't it?
Just in a matter of weeks, and then obviously they silenced me by deleting the platform. 200,000 followers, over 7 million views. Some tech guy that does the social media said it was the fastest momentum of a social media thing that he'd ever seen in Scotland. It just exploded. You were getting 500,000-600,000 people watching lives.
Man.
Like on the second day.
I know.
So see, when you started all this, what got you into? How did you find out about the whole?
I was always aware. I was always aware of what I call, organised
The remaining gangs,
abuse and organised people trafficking issues. But a few folk had approached me and they'd said that they were aware of me doing things in my own community and taking the fight on, so to speak, and the fact that I would openly engage anybody really. I don't fear reprisal. I've never feared reprisal. I've never feared finger wagging, slander, gossip, hate, all the things that make people weak or make people protect themselves.
That's what changed my life, being like that.
Well,
not been worrying about anything like that at all, about what I'm doing, what my purpose is here. To push that story.
But you'll only know you're here when you know you're here.
When you know you're here, aye.
And you'll legitimately know. You'll be like, I absolutely don't care what anybody's got to say about me, and I have 100%. Followed you, and I've seen your story, and I look back and I message you about a similar incident.
Aye.
A guy and a girl, notorious street robbers for Glasgow, tried to rob me a few years ago on my way to a Jerry Cinnamon concert, 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and they robbed 10 people that day. And I had a duffel coat on. Obviously, I can move like a cat. I've always been light on my feet. And I was walking along and I was eating something. It was like a lamb wrap. And this little girl just pops up in front of me, who I thought was a little girl. Turns out she was like, late 20s. She asked me for a quid. I said, I only have notes. It was like £20 notes. And she's like, give me that then. I said, I'm not giving you 20 quid. I'd give you a fiver. I'm not giving you 20 quid. I don't know you. And immediately, she's out her hoodie, big steak knife.
Fuck's sake.
She's like, you'll do what I tell you, or I'll stab you in the F and I.
Aye.
And I was like, nah, you won't. This isn't my first rodeo, do you know what I mean? And I heard a shuffle, and this guy's behind me, like 6'4".
Aye.
My pal says, going out in the middle of the white lines away, get yourself to safety. It was a girl. And I said, no, it's not happening. So it didn't happen. They both got dealt with, but and I mean they both get dealt with. When you put a 10-inch steak knife in somebody's face, who's trained how to handle themselves, you're no longer a female.
Quite
there's no gender.
There's
no gender in a knife fight. There is only survivors, and I just refused to take a second prize. So they had been on the go that day, and they got caught, and they both got jailed for it. And she's actually out now, and I won't name her, and I won't embarrass her. But hopefully she's turned her life around. I don't really care about him, but she had a kid, so you hope these people maybe see the light.
I don't.
But they were both very game, and they were up for it. Then I saw your story, and yours ended a lot more brutally than mine did. But you were drunk. And I don't care who you are, you're incapable of defence when you're drunk. And I was sober as a judge, and I had 0.5 of a second to decide to put her up in the air and drop him and put my foot straight through his kneecap, and anything at all I had to do to incapacitate him and protect myself, because they both had daggers.
But she's already, when I get kicked, I was sitting down, fell asleep, and I get kicked, but that's when I was spot on my feet. Obviously with my fitness, my training and everything else as well, so she was straight on my back. I thought he was punching me, but I got a hold of him and got him on the ground. I got him down the ground, punched him and he fell. I was trying to keep him down there, but she was at that time stabbed me in the back of the ear and cut me right there and just missed my jugular. So again, there's no gender there. You're going to have to fucking
You're playing with millimetres and seconds, you know.
So I grabbed her by the hair and just ripped her right off my shoulder.
It wasn't even couple, was it?
I thought it was, that's why I contacted you. I said, what was her name? I immediately thought, that's a double act. His story's exactly the same as mine. Just before they got to me, they'd robbed a guy at knife point at a checkpoint, stabbed him just above his heart, right in the shoulder blade. Like just here, and then robbed a little girl at St Enoch's car park of all her Christmas shopping, then bumped into me. And I looked around, right, I was walking up towards a pub called the Braemar Lodge, and there was the big music shop, was it Guitar? There's not a person in the street. And I'm like, where did you come from? You know what I mean? I'm extremely observant and all awareness, and I was like, where did you come from? I didn't even see her appear. She popped up like Jack in the Box. Nice wee face, smiley, friendly, boom.
Instant change.
I didn't even get to the O and no, and she had that blade out. And she says, I'll take your eye out. And I was like, nah, that's not happening.
It's a different type of like person, because obviously we've been in the armed forces and we've had to do whatever in kind of conflict zones and stuff. But can you imagine your conscience if you're going out doing that to innocent people?
Can you imagine dying in the city you live in when you've been in these places and you've came out unscathed and then getting killed in a Guile Street for a fiver?
Exactly.
No chance, honestly. Definitely. And you know, and I followed that case through because they phoned me up and they're like, do you want counselling? I said, no, I don't need anything like that. But there's so many people out there that do, and not everybody's built like us, where you can handle a situation right. I'm not indestructible. I'm not, you know, unbeatable. Everybody is on their day.
Of course.
I'm confident in my abilities, and I'm confident, you know.
Game.
Definitely.
Game for all situations.
I just don't want to. I just don't want my life to end that way. So I'll do anything to prevent it, and I'll be as vicious as I need to be in order to win.
Quite right. Well, my biggest question is no fear of death. I don't fear death anymore. It doesn't scare me. But can you imagine, you know, you're just a guy, you've been out for a beer, and before you know it, some scumbag's ending your life, and your mum's getting a phone call for what? You actually phoned my mum and tell me I was dead, because I went into shock. I didn't realise I was stabbed as much. And when I got away from him, went to George Square, that's when I realised all the blood was everywhere. And that's when I just fucking... And they phoned my mum and dad. The police contacted my mum and dad and basically told them, your boy's dead.
Do you feel targeted, Alex?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Not in a way that phases me.
No, you can tell you're not bothered. I
worry more about people round about me.
The ones you can't protect.
If I have any type of privacy left, which isn't much, you know, I don't want people round about me targeted. And it happened extensively during that. I was being called a racist. I was being called a homophobe. I don't know where they get that dialogue from, but Police Scotland scrutinised, you know, 30-40 hours of footage, and they came back to me and said there is absolutely no racially motivated content.
See these people that are giving you this racist stuff and you're homophobe. Who are these people? Do you know what I mean?
So there's different demographics in Glasgow, and you've got the extreme left, you know, side. I'm not going to go too far into who I'm talking about. I know exactly who they are. And in the south side of Glasgow in particular, there are some people that view people like me as extremists. Well, I actually view them more as extremists because, you know, these are the type of people that are now marginalising straight white men. You know, you're not allowed to be masculine today. You know, you're now in a minority, and this is the way it's going, right? But we're in very dangerous waters here. You know, terribly dangerous waters we're wading into, and thankfully, regardless of anyone's opinion of me, I'm fully aware of what's going on. I don't watch television. I turned it off a long time ago. You know, so no one is pulling my strings. No one's pulling my strings at all. I'm completely aware of everything that's round about me. All the narratives, you know, everything that's getting, all the propaganda. Propaganda's a dangerous thing, you know. It's
a powerful machine, especially when you're going after somebody, especially when the government and everyone owns all these machines to obviously attack you, which in this country, all your media is all controlled by the government. So they control everything, all the narratives that's put out there, all the stories, everything what they like for yourself. They're going to put the worst narrative and the worst stories out there to make you look bad.
Do you know think they use labels just to silence people as well?
That's why they're labelling has been racist, homophobic, because when you start saying these words in this society this day, this is words where people resonate with. So then when people go into social media and that, like, honestly, that's stuck in there. He's a homophobe, he's a racist. So they've judged him before they've even watched him, before they've even seen his story, because they're not interested in going and looking. They're just interested what's right there in front of them right now. All right, I've read such and such about this guy, so that's in my head straight away. Right, this is what I think of this guy. So folk have not got their own minds now. They're getting told what to think and what to say, so they don't even get a chance to see him.
But they only had to look at my friend's circle. You know?
Exactly.
Friends, mates all over the city. I know half the Sikh boys in the city. I've got great pals, you know. I've got pals for everywhere. And I was like, I'm definitely no racist. I was brought up in a decent household, you know, and I joined the Marines at 18, and I remember going to, you know, West Belfast and not having a clue what I was there for. I was clueless, even as a, you know, elite level soldier in that area. I never had a clue really why we were there. I was like, I must have missed this memo because in my household, this wasn't drummed into us. This city's divided by blue and green, Catholic and Protestant, right? I don't care anyway. For whatever thing that I did with those videos in Govan Hill, I gained a huge support from the Protestant side of Glasgow, and I got hated on by the Catholic side of Glasgow.
I can remember seeing something.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people might be interested to know that I was christened a Catholic.
But people were saying
no interest in religion.
They were saying you were anti-SNP. I remember us saying you were anti-SNP.
I never once in any video mentioned Nicola Sturgeon's name. I'll mention her now because she's gone. She was asked to meet me several times. She was advised to meet me by advisors close to her and chose not to. Also, very interestingly, which I can prove and validate today, I was approached by ethical hackers in Glasgow. I've got no idea how they knew this day where I was going to be, but they did. And they came to me and they said, the accounts that's targeting you are robot accounts or bot accounts from this. And it's the same company that handle the SNP or the First Minister's social media.
Seriously.
And I thought, that makes sense. You know, you only need to look at certain people around the UK who have spoken out. I don't really like naming people, right? But I will name one because we're getting now to the realms of reality where actually every single fabricated lie that's been structured and put out to the masses about him has now been disproven. Tommy Robinson. And, you know, universally despised at one point. People were all hashtagging his name and mine. You need to get together. We need to get right. And when I do my own thing, I'm involving no one else in it. I was offered people, I'll come out with you. No, it's not happening. And there's two reasons for it. One being you don't want to endanger anyone. The other being you don't want anyone to get the shit that you're going through. Only I know truly the depth of the shit that brought me. Wouldn't change a thing about it, and I stand on everything I've ever said, just for the record. But I do speak to Tommy, you know, and I'm going to go out and, you know, do something with him in the next few weeks.
Good.
And in all the years that he's been ostracised and targeted and his name lit up everywhere, do you know that he's never once been questioned for anything racially motivated? Not once by the police.
Yeah, they paint this picture that he is, don't they?
Well, the media do.
That's, I mean, they tell you that's what he is, and he's not. I had this with the wife as well. I says to her, I felt as if I've seen him recently, and I agree with some. No, I mean, I'm like, I agree with this. So why am I telling myself shouldn't agree with that? Because
we are told.
Do
you know what I mean? Because what you're told. It's a narrative you're getting pushed into your head.
It's hard not to agree when you stop watching edited clips. If you watch edited clips on TikTok or Instagram or anything that's edited into a short 15 seconds, they've took a specific bit of the dialogue and maybe butchered it 3 more times. So you can link any sentence to make anything up. So I chose to select 20 things, the worst things he's ever said, apparently. and watch the full unedited dialogue, and it's absolutely nothing
Too much pushed.
like what the outcome was. Right, it's not remotely close.
Aye.
They do the same with Tate. They're now doing it with Brand.
Aye.
I don't have an opinion on Brand either way, right? My opinion on him's completely irrelevant.
Aye.
The fact is, the guy's already guilty.
Aye.
Before he even gets a chance.
Because Panorama
Yeah.
have vilified him and found him guilty. Well, unfortunately for Panorama, they're not a judiciary. All right? They don't have the power of law.
Aye.
But you've just basically brandished this guy as a rapist globally, and there's no recourse to him. So if this gets thrown in the bin, right, and it goes nowhere, if it
Still
doesn't,
ruined his life.
so how does he get compensated now?
exactly.
Because I don't care who you are. The R word sticks.
Of
If you're a man and you're in Glasgow,
course
you're
it is.
anywhere, that sticks. The N word, you get called a nonce once, and it
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right.
That sticks. There is always somebody out there. Hence, I took major issue with being called a racist. I know where I've been, right? I've worked in West Africa. I've been to AIDS camps. I've had children in my arms that are dying with the disease and all the rest of it, right? And so no one will ever insult me by saying that to me, especially not to my face. That bothered me. I've had to grow an even thicker skin than I thought I had already. But, you know, the long and short of it is, I don't regret anything. I don't regret anything, and I say that with a full heart and a true heart. And
You really should, you know, because what you brought to
No,
light
why
is
should
the
you?
stuff going
Exactly.
on. You brought a light to what's going on down there. Everybody's all been brushed under the carpet for so long.
it's still going on.
But when you brought your stuff out, I know people that work in the ambulance industry, and it was one of my mates had said to me, they went into a house, right? So they basically went into this house, and it was like maybe a 2-year-old, I think it was 2 or 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I don't obviously in this anal tear, right?
Yep.
Post not getting involved. Ambulance would get in there and see that vein with an anal tear, and the post not get involved in it. They were not involved in it.
Well, I was live streaming one night, and I walked into a paramedics removing a child, a minor from a property with no parents, wrapped up in a blanket, a naked child. And they were like, you need to stop filming. I said, no, you walked into my live.
Aye.
I'm not putting a child in camera, I'm pointing at the ground. But what's going on? Right, anyway, see on that phone, there's still messages from all the paramedics and all the people and all the social
I've seen
workers.
it.
Right, when I said that children as young as 8 were being treated for STDs in clinics in Glasgow. Why is that not criminal? Why is that not being investigated criminally? You cannot say it's down to a culture that's this, right? All the things I said I get vilified for. So why? So if we can't say it one way, why is it not getting investigated criminally?
Another way.
Children are being taken to clinics in Glasgow with anal tears and all the rest of it.
Aye.
That's no bullshit. That's fact.
facts,
It's
it's
all there in black and white still to this day.
Because I worked in Government Wimmis as well, and you used to hear about it all the time. I worked, you just were, you've got Ibrox Stadium, you've got the car wash, so there's a wee bit, there's a cash centre,
Yep.
Wimmis. I worked in there for about 8-9 years.
Yep.
So you were hearing about it all the time, and then, but you didn't get it to the extent that I started watching your lives just before, it was before the pandemic hit.
Was it not during the
Was
pandemic?
it during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think it was just around the beginning of
Just
it.
in the
Yeah,
beginning,
maybe
yeah.
just at the
And
start.
that's when I started seeing these lies, and you started hearing all this, and you're like, wow. You knew shit was going on, but not to the extreme when you started putting it out there. And it was an eye-opener, man.
That's a harsh reality, man, isn't it?
But it still occurs, right? It's just that they move postcode, right? You know, you only need to go to maybe Cessnock now and look at the way that the property values in Cessnock have dropped. The whole place is looking a little bit out of sorts and all the rest of it. Once a fantastic working class area, you know, but now you go into these areas, right? And I'm still going to say it, and it will still inflame certain demographics in Glasgow. Why is it when you go into these areas, right? There's multiple Western unions,
Aye.
right? And businesses for expediting money out of this country. If these are poverty-stricken areas, why do they need Western unions?
Western unions and the money.
Right?
Aye.
Why is this no one's talking about it? And why are they able to take on vast units, way bigger than any project I ever took on as a self-employed entrepreneur, and spend 200 and 300k renovating? I know what it costs to renovate.
Aye.
And you know, the shisha bars, coffee bars, and they've had incredible refits, and no one bats an eyelid. you don't come to the UK from a third world regime, right, and kick off a 300-400k business.
Nah, no chance.
Straight away.
Where do you think your funding's coming from?
Well, I know where the funding's coming from.
Child sex trafficking.
The funds are all fraudulent, right? But when you come here, you have no history, monetised history, so they can't verify if it's proceeds of criminality. They've just got to accept that it's legitimate. They're coming here with the funds, right? Once you've got that legitimate front, it's extremely easy thereafter to launder anything you want through it. And if you start to get, prodded with a stick from our authorities, the race card is your get out of jail card. I don't have it. None of yous have it. So why is there a difference, right? It's like policing by postcode. Right? There's a well-known hashtag in Glasgow. I'm going to say it: Justice for Reese Bonner. Great people. I know the family. I know Stephanie. They're great people. That was policing by postcode. Why is that not being spoke about in Westminster in Parliament? Why is that not getting handled with the respect and the diligence that it deserves? Okay, police officers doing what they did on video with the body of a young man with no disregard for him at all, caught in the act by some clever person with a phone, which most things get do nowadays. Policing by postcode. If it was a wealthy Jewish family from Newton Mearns or whatever, it would have been handled with kid gloves, right? And that's policing by postcode. Folk will say, but Alex, you're a police hater. Absolutely not. I've got mates that are coppers, right? Beat coppers are nothing to do with my grievance with the authorities. I'm looking at the accountants and the string pullers that orchestrate all this puppetry in order to maintain a system that is built on keeping us here and them there.
Exactly.
And if you're living today and you've got to your 40s or your 50s and you cannot see this, you must be sleeping with a pillow over your head. You must be walking with a pillow over your head, because it's so blatantly obvious now that they don't care. Everything's a stealth tax. Everything is about demonetising you. People are working for 40 years. They come to the end of their working life, they've got nothing to show for it. There's something majorly criminally wrong with that. If you work a 40 or a 50-hour week, right, every week, and you can barely survive and you're below the breadline and you can't even afford a week in Benidorm, there is something seriously wrong with the math there. Right?
It's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse.
But it's getting worse every day. But where's the action?
Because see, in this country, we've got too many folk that's scared to say a thing. We're a country that's as soft as hell. There's too many folk that have got big platforms that are scared to even open their mouth.
We're getting softer for 100% now. 100%. But we're allowing it to happen.
We are allowing it as a nation to allow this shit.
See, if it was France, but there'd be riots in the street.
So going back to, I don't like bringing up things too long ago, like the war, for instance. But when you get young men at 14 lying that they were 17 so they could go to the northwest frontier to fight for their country, what's happened to men?
They've not got men anymore.
Social media.
I don't even want to talk about women and what they're doing to their bodies and all the rest of it in the name of vanity, right? But, I tested myself recently. I've got a crown for a fight when I was 16 or 17 and it was loose and I pulled it out. And I was like, I don't want to walk about like that. I just decided to leave it. Because I said, I want to know if I'm vain and how much that bothers me.
Fair one.
Right? So I tested myself. And if I get up and I jump down and I can't do 100 press-ups, there's a problem. I need to remedy the problem. See the only way to fix a problem, right? You have to be bothered by it. I'm bothered that there are organised gangs in the country I live in that will monetise children any way they can and monetise destitute, vulnerable adults that are incapable of defending themselves.
Giving them drugs to take their kids.
It's modern day slavery, right? And it happens in a massive scale in this country because you know why? Everybody is coming here. We've got very soft laws. You can literally get away with anything you want in this country if you box clever. And they know that the way our policing policies are structured, that the majority of it is on stealth revenues, the Road Traffic Act, things like that, fines, anything that they can target soft, vulnerable members of the public that don't understand the law.
By the law. Law of the land and law of the sea.
Do you think, let's see...
So this place is a gold mine for anyone that's astute enough.
Because everybody's still sitting asleep, but you've got, obviously we live under law of the sea. You do know that, don't you?
Yep. Maritime law.
Maritime law, we're under, which isn't, so it's law of the sea, no law of the land. So we're basically, the way that sort of do is all your courts are all corporations. They're not owned by the government anymore.
Private entities working in publicly funded buildings, what that one?
See, we're talking about different kind of cultures and nationalities and stuff. Do you know, I think community leaders should be standing up and saying more to people? What
powers a community leader got every day? You know what? I get hundreds of messages every other night. Who can I write to? Blah, blah, blah. And I need to say I need to answer them somewhere or another. Right? And it hurts my heart to lie to them and say, try writing to your local MP. What powers he got?
But what about
40 grand a year? What's he going to do?
But
not even just power, respect as well.
Different cultures though,
right?
Because they seem to kind of respect their elders more. They've got this kind of more installed in them, innit?
You wouldn't go and behave the way a lot of people behave in this country, in Dubai, for instance, or one of the Emirates. So you would never see daylight again.
Thousands of years, but this hasn't just been going on for a wee bit of time. This has been going on for thousands of years. It's global. Child sex trafficking. It's the biggest money making thing. Anything on the planet, this is what makes money, is child sex trafficking.
Because it's everywhere. Because it's easy.
That's what I was going to say. It just it doesn't seem to
be indefensible. They can't defend themselves.
This is why all your paedophiles are all protected when they go to courts. You can't get a copper for somebody who breaks into your house, right? Nobody will come near the house or anything happens, a big incident, they don't come to your house. See the minute they find there's a paedophile in a house and then there's a big crowd outside, 30 motors protecting that paedophile coming back out and rehoming them or rehanging. And it's always funny how they rehome them next to a fucking school, a play park or something along these lines.
But this is where you're saying beat cops don't get under your skin because they're just getting told to be there.
So what happens is everybody blames the police. How come you're letting them out again? It's a Glasgow thing, right? It's the pack mentality. Glaswegians will jump on something 200 handed if it's getting somebody out of the house, right? They'll all turn up. They turn out, I'll say that about them. But the education's missing, right? Not in a derogatory way. They don't understand it's got nothing to do with the police. The police collate indictable evidence, right? Anything of evidential value. It's then sent to the Crown Prosecution Services. In England, it's like, it's a different, it's like a magistrates type thing. But up here, it's the CPS, and they will basically say there's only a 40% chance of conviction at trial. Bin it. Doesn't matter if it's rape or you're caught molesting a child or downloading 10,000 Category 1 images. If it doesn't meet the criteria, it's a box ticking exercise. So we get repeat offenders and we say, I know you out again, free, right, nothing recorded. Because the CPS are fundamentally flawed. Same as MAPA. MAPA are in business to monitor highly dangerous criminals in society post-sentence. MAPA are a failed organisation. They've got a backlog of thousands because of lockdown. Because they couldn't do the checks, they're not checking people's devices. They don't even know where half of them are because they've moved address. If people only knew who was walking among them, some of the most dangerous people in society live in every postcode in Scotland and they're off the radar because MAPA's lost track of them. I've done freedom information requests, I've chased and pursued that information and they just whitewash you, right? Because they don't want in the public domain that there's 10,000 highly dangerous rapists off the system and they've got no idea where the hell they are.
That's crazy how easy it is for them to just slink back into society and get on with it. And as you're saying, it's an organisation that's failing.
But they don't get any external audit. They don't answer to anyone.
That's it.
Forget all the crap, right? All the sleight of hand stuff, all the tricks that, lessons will be learned. Okay, let's go back 20 years. Soam, Ian Huntley. That loophole's still open. I petitioned it to be closed. He changed his name. He applied for that job and killed those little girls. That loophole's open today. Now, look at the Prime Ministers we've had. They've all had kids. Blair, Cameron, they've all had kids, right?
They've never closed that loophole.
So why not do the very first thing? If I'm in power and you give me the reins for everything, The very first thing I'm going to do is make my child protection laws in the country that I'm the Prime Minister of the most robust child protection laws on planet Earth. Right? That's the very first thing I'm going to do. Before I stick my nose in the trough and my head in the gravy train and start doctoring up my expenses and making all my millionaire mates billionaires with dodgy contracts and all the falsity and all the bullshit. This is what they do.
Yeah.
They're not here to help.
No.
People help people. People in communities help people, right? But they stole that from us.
We've lost our
They
sense of
stole community spirit when they locked people in their houses for 2 and 3 years, and they made it, they made it law that you can't go and see your dying parent in a care home, and you've got to wave through a window, right? See, that's all of that. That's genocide on our people, and all of the other bullshit's a medical genocide. I probably don't want to go down that road. We've not got time. That's maybe for another day. But it's all part of the same spectrum of criminality. The people of the UK are no warmongers, right? We've never once decided to go to war with anybody. They decide it. Sunak's on the radio that today, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, saying that in order to change Britain, you need to implement serious change. So he says, so I have decided... Listen, I have decided that I am going to implement a 10-step plan over the next X amount of years to make this country the most climate friendly. Right? 50%, 60% of the scientists globally deny climate change. But here's this puppet, New World Order idiot with somebody's hand up his ass, talking crap because he's in a position where whatever he says goes. Exactly. Right, and regardless of us four sitting here, right, 4 Hoffwits for Scotland, in the bigger scheme of things, nobody really cares about. Right? We'll have our wee couple of hours here and we'll have our natter. But in the bigger scheme of things, he doesn't care. I'm an enemy of the state because I'm hell-bent on outing all of them at any cost to myself. You can put that on record. Whatever happens to me, I'm absolutely fine with. I made my peace with myself long ago, right? The best part of me is dead anyway. So I'm fine with whatever the outcome of my journey is. I've got no problem with a good outcome or a bad outcome, but I will not be quiet when I know categorically that all of our systems, all of our social services, all of our child protection laws, they're all archaic, they're out of date, they don't work. Everybody in every organisation and authority that is in position in this country, a position of power and funded adequately, they are all failing. That's why you've got abuse scandals all over the UK, Rotherham, Telford, everywhere, all of it, right? Rochdale, all of these abuse scandals were known for decades before they were actioned. That is absolutely, we've got the absolute proof that some of them were known 20 years, 30 years. 30 years before they were actioned by law and by the correct process, the due process.
What's taking them so long to pull the trigger on it?
Because basically all the powers that be are all the ones that are pushing it under the carpet, and then you've got all your witnesses all start disappearing. You've got folk get what to stand up, then next minute they're up in court for different charges. They frighten them with so many things, so they'll not come forward to speak up, or they make them look like liars. Again, the media train, everything all gets put on like things like Telford or these things. They all just attack. So these people are scared to come out because they know the minute they come out and do this, it's going to be, everyone's going to be against them. So this is why folk are scared now when they really need to start standing up.
You also have the power of the race card, right? And that holds an incredible, immense amount of weight behind it. Now, a lot of those abuse rings that I've just mentioned, right, that were common knowledge in the workplace, and every council and authority, in the UK, some of the men orchestrating them at the very top of the tree, right, that orchestrated the abuse, the systematic rape of young white girls by 90% Pakistani men, right? I don't have any problem saying that at all, because my information comes from the National Crime Agency's database. So are they lying? Right? Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger.
Aye.
Okay? I'm just relaying what they're saying.
What the information is.
And that's been proven beyond doubt to be absolutely solid, watertight information. So I'm saying it as it is. So don't call me anything. Take it up with them. So because we knew about it, right, and these people that were all targeted, some of them went to jail, some didn't. A lot of them get deportation, against them, and they're still living in the UK, and a lot of them still work, and some of them went back and worked in councils and all the rest of it. They found further employment within authority positions, pensionable positions, and all the rest of it. I could probably name off the top of my head 30 or 40 names, really high up guys that were involved in the abuse, that were categorically proven to be rapists of young white girls in their communities, and they went straight back into positions of power. There's something seriously wrong with that. It stinks. So the point of that is we either in this country don't care about children, or we do. I absolutely believe that they don't. The reason being is pure and simple. They cannot monetize it enough, right?
Aye.
The child protection world is a $100 million business. The money in kids and removing kids from parental consent and fostering and all the rest of it generates hundreds of millions. Where they can't draw a revenue from it, and this is why policing is all road traffic offences, easy fines, easy money, courts, the system, easy money, and they go after proceeds of crime, drug dealers, putting doors in, seizing assets, seizing houses, seizing bank accounts, because there's fortunes in it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those drugs find their way back to the street, but that's another story as well. Okay? Now, so the reason that paedophilia and online groomers who we find, who we target, the reason that the police don't put any weight and manpower and asset and structure any type of reasonable, response to the scale of the problem is because they cannot monetize it.
Yeah.
Because catching this groomer or that groomer, right, there's a couple of court appearances and a rap in the knuckles and they're all out. So the public are continually telling me, why are all the beasts out in the street, Alex? And I say, well, they've not yet found a way to monetize that type of criminality to make it worthwhile going the full hog on it. They're too busy kicking doors in, busting grows and all this other stuff, right? Criminalising people for the wrong things. Addiction is either addiction or it's a criminal offence. If a heroin addict goes into a chemist and steals 10 bottles of shower gel to sell, he's funding an addiction. How can you criminalise him and put him in jail for it? He's either an addict or he's a criminal. Which is he?
It's a health problem, isn't it?
Because under the medical banner, he's an addict, right? And he's got such an immense craving that he must steal that shower gel to fund his habit.
Yeah.
So instead of fixing the problem, which is rehabilitation, all the rest of it, they just continually criminalise these young guys and they end up doing 30-year and bit sentences. Before you know it, they're in their 50s. They're still an addict, but not only are they an addict, they're now on pregabalin, gabapentin, everything else, right?
Like
everything else in the jail that's available. So they come out of the jail with 10 addictions. They've got a 30-year criminal record. They're then classed as unemployable. So they're in the system forever. They've harmed themselves and damaged their bodies that much that they're in PIP, they're in everything. And we've got entire generations of young men today and guys my age, from my era, who are lost in the woods completely. Their entire life was in and out of Barrel, Greenock, Lomas, for they were 16, and they're no fundamentally bad men. It's all stupid, basic, minuscule criminality. Shoplifting, theft, dishonesty, shoplifting. Does that justify 30 years of imprisonment?
No chance.
Yeah, you can go and get caught with all this stuff on your computer and they'll take your computer off you and put you in a tag and you go crack on with society.
You won't go to jail on your first child offence. You will not go to jail for it.
Man.
Community payback, is that?
You'll get community payback. You might get a sexual harm prevention order. You might. It's not cut in stone. You might go on the sex offenders register or you might not. I did a video the other day on historic stuff. I spoke about a musician in one of the biggest bands in the UK. He was on a site for a long time. He didn't download anything, but he repeatedly went into view, you know, category 1 images, the worst kind. Said he was doing it for a project. His best mate was the copper in charge of the case. He gets an out, all charges dropped. You know, that stinks. It still stinks 20 years later. He's a multi-millionaire musician. He's known worldwide. And he gets a pass because he's able to, you know, have barristership because he's got the funds and all the rest of it. And it kind of stinks because the guy in the street, and rightly so, would be bank your rights. But he gets a pass. A lot of them get a pass. And everybody writes on our posts, all the judges are pedos. You know, that's not true, right? However, these guys in law that set the tariffs of law, right? You know, murder, 15 years, culpable homicide, 8 years, whatever it may be. Why do they set the bar so low for sexual interactions with children? Kids. Child rape, any form of sexual interaction with a child is statutory rape. Why do they set the tariff so low, right? There is something very, very off with the tariffs. They're diabolically poor. They don't meet what we as the public, who they apparently represent, feel is justified. Right?
Makes you question it as well, though.
Which makes me say, is it because they know all their mates are doing it?
Aye. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I believe I'm logical. I am not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of imagination. It's a term that's gotten out of hand.
That's what they like to call the people that want to speak up, though, because I've been called it 100 times.
Conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy means to conspire. Okay. Now, if you conspire to give your mates a pass for something they're doing, well, what does that make you? If you're the guy with the power calling the shots, the judges and the sheriffs in Scotland and England and Wales and all the rest of it, they sit there, okay, and they determine the outcome of your life. Are you going away or are you going back in the street? But everybody at the child side of criminality, right, with child offences, that spectrum of criminality, believe me guys, I've spent thousands of hours in this in my life. It's consumed my life. I've looked at hundreds and hundreds, tens of thousands of sentences across all of it, and it doesn't stack up. There's something seriously wrong. The balance is out, and that's why we're catching guys that are 4th, 5th. I've caught a 6th time reoffender down in Bristol, a guy called Kieran Jenkins. The police knew him. Oh, it's all right, we know Kieran. Do you? Aye. Yeah, this is the 6th time we've been out to him for the same thing. Trying to meet 10-year-old girls in order to rape them. 6'3", 23 stone, you know.
Is that the guy who was rolling about with you on his
That
driving?
was Mark Brady in Norris Green in Liverpool. Another notorious, online abuser. Young girls, women, any female, no female safe with Mark Brady. You know. And I went there myself, and the police in Liverpool were more annoyed that I was myself.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's not for you to worry about. You know, that's for me to worry about.
See, just what you were saying about like conspiracies and all that, like I'm not wanting to go down that rabbit hole as well, but see, after watching like you up in Govan Hill or whatever, I remember it was during COVID, wasn't it? I think we were all still in the house.
Yeah, kind of tailed in, yeah.
And I ended up going down that fucking rabbit hole of Pizzagate and whatever else. See, over in America. And then I remember I tweeted that John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's right-hand man, I tweeted him beast and he blocked us.
I got all my pages shut down, see, for the whole government stuff and that, like my Facebook, my Instagram and my Twitter at the time. I was putting it all out today with all the child sex trafficking. I'm talking the global stuff, and they're all involved. Even your government's involved with Americans. The whole conspiracy theory was created by the FBI. Let's find a word that we can put into society that just say that there maybe be 30% conspiracy theorists, right? You've got 70% of society which is mere. So they've found a word now that they can tag onto these people that are bringing the truth out.
Conspiracy.
He's a conspiracy theorist, and then it changes the logic on what you're trying to say. Well, he's just a conspiracy theorist. So it shuts it down straight away. It devalues it. And this all came for the FBI creating this statement, conspiracy theorist. And this is what they try and do. People that want to speak up, they'll target them, they'll put them through the court systems, they'll make their lives hell, they'll take their businesses, they'll take their money. And this is all to keep us quiet. And the likes of your man Shell, he's not keeping quiet.
Aye.
It's to maintain,
where do they go next?
It's to maintain the merry-go-round. The system, regardless of any truth speaker, right?
Aye.
I changed my life a few years ago and I decided I need to tell the truth. I need to stand on all of my beliefs and I need to move forward with this, regardless of what happens to me, regardless of what it costs me financially or anything. I would probably consider myself unemployable now.
Aye.
I've been self-employed since I left the services, but I would consider myself unemployable. I don't think anybody would want to employ me.
I'd be scared to because of this
Correct.
stigma.
Right, and I believe that.
Aye, 100%.
So I've got an extremely small circle. It's maybe not even the size of a circle.
Aye.
You know, I don't really hear from anybody that I once knew. Friendships, everything's gone. It's all evaporated. So, you know, I am a lone ranger in that respect. I've got some very good people in my team and Spartan Child Protection team, which I formed off the back of this. It was always in my head. I kept meaning to do it and I kept meaning to get to it. Something else would occur. And you overextend, you overstretch yourself. And I made myself very unhealthy during the Govan Hill stuff. You know, I'm a natural 14 stoner. And I was like, lost 2 stone. I was really unwell. And I just, you know, because I wasn't sleeping for like 7-8 days at a time.
You created this new thing. Maybe
I was getting targeted constantly. Police were stopping me constantly. Armed response units. I was getting... you know, there's a whole other thing that's going on just now with the police with a corruption case against them.
Do you think you've built a whole new mentality though? Like, the way I would say, built calluses in the brain where
bulletproof.
When so at the start of your journey, it was breaking you down, you were losing weight and everything else. And then you get to that point in your mind where you go, right, enough's enough, this is where I'm going to change the full narrative here in myself. And this is when you start believing in everything you're doing, believing in every word you say, and just stick to that narrative.
Did you never feel fear? But because I can remember watching it
live.
I
got targeted a few times, definitely. You know, I don't feel fear. I'm not going to... A lot of guys you'll meet ex-service guys, you meet and they'll say, I'm not scared of anything, right?
I think fear's a good thing.
They're lying.
Aye.
If you don't fear something, then you're a psychopath. Okay, and you're devoid of the normal spectrum of human emotion. So you're a psychopath. That's it. You're like one kick in the balls away from being a serial killer. Fear is very healthy, but you need to understand how to harness it. You also need to know what it is. Most people don't. It's an emotion, right? All it is, all fear is a release of endorphin. It's exactly the same as going to your mate's wedding and feeling happy, right? I believe there's only one emotion, right? And it's that release of those endorphins. But it's your brain that tells you how to interpret it.
But it's going to
so
be
it's either the dark, it's fear. I heard a bang at night, it's fear. Or I'm surrounded by all my mates, this is great, I'm happy. The release of chemicals is exactly the same. So if you can learn to understand and interpret fear and what it is, fear is indoctrinated from nursery. Don't run, don't shout, don't fit, don't do right. Everything's don't. Why are we not saying to kids everything should be yes? Do run, do climb that tree, do go and jump off of that wall. If you hurt yourself, shit happens.
Learn, innit? That's how you learn.
That was the biggest thing.
So we're protecting and we're creating this environment of cotton wool and we're creating weaker people. I don't want to talk about women, right? There's some incredibly powerful women right now today in the world on social media doing exceptional things. Women have never been stronger than they are today, right? Women that are flying, that are taking themselves places and seeing nobody in their way. I think it's incredible. I want to talk about men. I think it's extremely sad, right? You know, I'm in my late 40s, whatever. I think it's very, very sad. Even in the basic sense, the demise of boxing gyms in Scotland, they're all evaporating before our eyes. Do you know why? Because they can't afford their electricity bills. And because they're classed as a commercial entity, they get hit with water charges from fraudulent companies, right? Basically selling them back rainwater. Okay? It's all fraud. And they become financially unsustainable. But a young guy might go to a boxing gym, and I'm using boxing gyms as an example because I've got a lot of friends who own boxing gyms. And what that young guy might not be able to speak about in the home, he might have an abusive father might not be present. you might have a mum that just is incapable of, he's incapable of opening up to. And I'm probably talking about myself here. When you go to a boxing gym, you might be able to tell your coach anything. Okay? So the coach in the boxing gym becomes that young guy's everything. When that boxing gym ceases to trade, that young guy goes back to having nobody to speak to. So it builds up and it becomes something else that manifests, and then it envelopes him. And he gets aggressive, or he chins somebody, or he does something, or he gets into a volatile relationship with a girl, and through one thing or another, he maybe lifts his hand. Okay? Through years of being unable to speak. See, when you take away all these things that once made this country what it was, I wouldn't like to be a young guy today. I believe their backs are up against the wall in every way possible, because there's no apprenticeships, there's no industry, we don't make anything anymore. So crime's the easy road.
I can vouch for that, you know, but
I've got a past. We've all gone into things. They get the opportunity. They're getting groomed into it by older guys. What age are you?
40.
Why are guys your age, right? Your age. You're in your 40s, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
you. Are you at 10? Fuck's sake.
I'm only 21.
Are you?
Stone, fuck's sake.
36.
Why are guys your age, right? Or, okay, why are guys my age? I was born in the 70s. Why is guys that have had the life, I've lived the life, believe me, I've lived the life, I've had the money through my hands, I've had all sorts. Why are we not saying to the young guys, listen, you know, trying to inspire them? Why do we not want the best for young guys in our country, our fellow countrymen? What happened to camaraderie, comradeship, patriotism? What happened to wanting the best for young guys in your community? Why are we grooming them into criminality and all the rest of it?
What do you think about national service? Bring that back to
absolutely not. Bad idea. No, because you can't just blanket every young guy under the ability to go and run with a rifle towards danger. What about a young guy that isn't aware of his sexuality? You know, a lot of young guys are feminine. It's not to be frowned upon, or don't ostracise them, you know, because just genetically they're just built that way. They're not built for combat. It's vicious.
I just think for the like, kind of respect and
I get you, but it's got to be a choice. You've got to be built for that life. You know, I went in a train, I went into a man's world. I got off that train, I looked about, I seen men with green berets on, corporals that were gods. They were gods, right? They didn't even walk, they floated. These people were like godlike, you know. And when they looked at you with you know, that 1,000-yard stare, they were all probably, at my era, they were all Falklands vets, multiple Northern Ireland tours, South Armagh. These guys could kill you with a stare, and you wanted to be like them, okay? Because I don't think anyone goes for any other reason than they want to test themselves. They want to know what you're made of. I just wanted to know. I had something in me that my mates would recognise and say, you're a lunatic. We'd come out to dancing at 3 a.m. in Glasgow, and I'd run to Neilston.
Fuck's sake.
You know, in January, in 3 feet of snow. I was just built that way, and they thought it was hilarious, but I would do it and I would challenge myself. And I always knew I had something just a little bit different.
Everybody else.
And I needed to test myself. So I made my choice, and I went, and you know, and I did it. And I just don't think that you can push every young guy down that funnel.
You've got to have it.
Probably not.
You've got to be built for that. Or the outcome will be deep cut, multiple mass suicides of young men. And more horrifically, young women.
It just seems if now, but I don't know if it's because of the younger generation, they're always on their Xbox or their PlayStation.
They're just too soft.
But who's to blame for that?
Parents probably.
No. Stop blaming parents. Blame your government that have sold everything off, all your country's assets, all your mineral wealth. We own nothing. Right? We've got 70 years of exploration in the North Sea, and we don't have a penny to show for it. We've got no oil fund, so we've got no backup. So when everything else goes wrong, which it is going wrong, we don't even build transit vans anymore. They're built in Turkey. The Luton factory, the world's greatest selling van, shipped out of Turkey for cheaper labour. The vans have never been, they've been subpar since the day they went. I've drove transits for 20 years. They've been subpar since the day they went there. They sell off everything. Private equity, shareholders, don't think for a minute, guys, that this is by
it's not.
default.
It's
This is all by design.
planned.
They know where the money is. They follow the money, and the money goes to the money. They are keeping it for themselves.
100%.
And all those companies that popped up during lockdown that were getting awarded hundreds of millions of pounds in contracts, these companies were formed off the shelf and had no stock.
What about the track and trace that lost billions?
But how can you award a company 100 billion that's got no stock?
42 billion.
It doesn't own anything.
And then-
It's a certificate of incorporation that's worth 2 bob and nothing else.
Or Richie Sunak's pals were getting like that started up, was it 3-4 businesses, and it was like, I can't remember the name of it, and it was like just got business 1, business 2, business 3, business 4.
And how many people have been criminalised?
None.
And how much money's been clawed back? Not 1
Not
cent.
1 penny.
Right.
And then you look at Scotland as well, when
They're laughing at us.
was it Sunrar or Cairn Ryan when they went bust, and then they gave the contract to a ferry company that never didn't even have a boat.
That doesn't need to pay anything in the UK and can pay £3 an hour. So we could do 10 podcasts, right?
Aye.
And if people really want to listen and scrutinise what we say and go and validate it, they will.
Go and do your own information.
But most people won't, because this is an act of convenience, right?
Aye.
Folk will watch it, they'll tune in, they'll watch a bit, they'll come back to it, they'll maybe watch
They'll
it,
never
they'll
go and
maybe
do
not.
their own research.
And they'll go,
They'll
that was a
never do
good crack. But that's where it'll end.
Aye.
I'm built differently in the sense that I am a glutton for punishment. So I'll go down the rabbit hole and I'll go and look. You won't tell me something tonight and I won't go and check.
Aye, I'm the same, because I
Right,
don't trust
I'll go and
it.
take a look.
I'll go and look for it first.
It's not that I distrust you.
But
I
I've got to know for myself.
I need to go and see for myself because I want to absorb every single bit
I'm the
of it,
same.
because you
I
might have
want to
left
know.
something out.
Aye, you need
Alex,
to find some different.
He was in the RLC in the
Shut up,
army.
you fool. I carried you through your career. But we're actually running out of time, but we could do a series. I could sit and listen to
it's
this.
It's a
Yeah,
shame,
yeah,
right?
man.
I don't even know if
Can
we
we
could do
just-
something else and just tie it together.
We need to, but can we quickly...
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what's going to happen with Spartan Child Protection
Spartan
Team?
will
Because
never stop. Like I say, guys,
how do we... How can...
in order to kill me, you need to put a bullet in me. That's it. I'm not going to stop doing this because I know I'm onto something. I've dug far enough now, and I know that all of the services, everything behind the scenes that we don't have long enough to discuss, I will happily open up in all of it. They're all involved. The corruption involved in this, the monetisation of child protection is out of control.
Yeah.
They're writing their own checks, and children are in more danger than they've ever been in. But apparently everything's better than it's ever been. Children are in more danger of predation than they've ever been. There's never been a greater danger to our children in this country than there is right now.
Aye.
From every walk of life, they're getting arrows fired at them from everywhere. If they're not getting exploited by visual stuff on Instagram, and women that are out of proportion, disproportionate to reality.
Yeah.
If you look on Instagram, you see the first 50 pictures is bikini women, beautiful, right? Tell me, when you walk around, do you see any of that?
No,
I don't, because it's all fake.
Yeah.
It's all filtered and it's all fake, right? And the reality is our brains are getting saturated by imagery, and it's going down the scale of age.
Aye.
Young guys, anybody that's vulnerable, anybody that is easily conditioned, when you're force feeding somebody that is
Taking it on.
a certain type of guy that's maybe weak-minded, doesn't have confidence, and you're force feeding them imagery all the time, they're going to act. And if they've not got the confidence to talk to a woman, they're going to talk to a child.
Yeah.
And that's why they lift a phone, you're 2 clicks away from any app in a chat room, and the next thing, some of them might not be even aware that they're engaging in criminally talking to a child, but they've engaged in grooming, and it leads to requesting exploitive images, sexually explicit chat, all the rest of it, the whole dialogue, and then they pop up on our radar and we go and we get them. They are the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I've caught some serious guys, real ring paedophiles. We've caught really nasty, dangerous people.
Can we get you in for a second, like, just solely on that?
Listen, 100%, because this is just, I feel like we've not even done an introduction properly.
No.
I've had so much to talk about, and I did say 8 o'clock's quite a late start, and I've had it in my head.
Yeah, but
And when I was driving down here, I was dilly-dallying and daydreaming, and I was coming down and I was thinking, and
But there's a lot of people.
But here, but I think we need to mention one. I know you don't really like mentioning names, but one of your most prolific like kind of things is the boy Scott Barr.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You had a post on a day like saying he's never going to get peace, and like
He'll never get peace.
Aye.
I'll never give him peace. Scott Barr is involved. Scott Barr's position was verifying that these children are real. Predators and paedophiles know we exist. I've got them on my page. They follow me. Where is he? You know, if he's in Birmingham, don't talk to him for the next 48 hours or don't answer the door, right? You know, you'd be stupid to think they don't follow you. I've had paedophiles, convicted, well-known paedophiles in my chat, live chatting to us.
Nah, it's fucked, man.
Do you know what I mean? And they'll say things like, they'll try and get validated by saying things like, oh, everybody's capable of change. See, if you engage with a child right once in your life,
You'll never change.
that is in you. There's a mechanism that's been turned.
yes,
And you can't go back. You either like women or you like children.
Aye.
Right? I know I like women. You know, I see children, they're children. There is nothing sexual to look at.
No, they're gifts for God.
So some of the chat logs are outrageous. I train the decoys, I bring them into the fold. They see things and they're like, you know, they'll be asking kids to put ankle socks on, stuff that they've sexualised.
That's fucking.
I don't want
sick
to,
as fuck,
you know,
man.
chat logs are horrific. I've read that many of them. I'm not going to say I'm now emotionless to them.
You know.
They all infuriate me as equally as much as the last, but you do see it, and then every so often a chat log will pop up and it's expert level. This guy's a master groomer. He's going to get inside any child's head,
Yeah, he's just gonna
and
try
within 15 minutes he's going to have them boxed in and doing exactly what he wants off his script.
I think
Because they're so good at it.
I definitely
scary,
we need a second one.
Definitely
Aye,
another one.
but
How soon? Okay, how soon?
anytime,
this
right?
needs
But do you
to
know what
happen.
we need to do? We need to. You need to say to me, right, Alex, what do you want to talk about? Because I'm a jack in the box.
We just wanted to know you and
I'm a
get to know you.
scaring,
This is it. This
We'll
is
talk about everything, but we'll not talk about me.
that's what it's about. It's everybody wanted to. We tell people you're coming on and they were buzzing for it.
it's all-
Everybody wants to.
Yeah,
Mental.
I was late tonight and it's a shame, but it'll not happen again.
aye.
We need a bit longer.
I blame Jordan, it's always his fault.
Aye.
I've not even started, by the way, on exposing some
Well,
stuff.
once we come off here, we'll organise the second one.
Next Wednesday too soon.
Yeah, probably be fine. I made you a wee thing. I make everybody a slate, right?
Good.
Oh,
So
boy.
if you've ever got a broken slate, you can fix it with this.
Happy days.
A nail in the fish.
Oh,
rod.
That's
brilliant,
amazing,
by the way.
man.
The power of conversation.
Happy days.
Right?
Fucking love
So,
it.
I mean, I'm not an artist by any
That's
stretch.
brilliant.
That's
Alex.
outstanding.
I just make them because I don't know. I just
That's very
enjoy
much
it.
appreciated.
Thank you very
And when
much.
I'm doing it, I'm quite calm. And when I'm not doing it, I'm an absolute
That's just therapy.
lunatic.
Aye.
Can we get you next Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll come. Yeah, we'll do something. Aye, what date? I'm deleting that.
We'll sort it off camera.
This is the 20th, so it'll be
Yeah.
27th.
But we'll need to stick to something because
Aye.
I go in tangents, right? And that's about 2 or 3 coffees. I just go in tangents. You
Right,
know,
we'll-
I want to talk to you about some stuff as well.
Aye.
I want to see how your things have affected you and stuff. You know.
Aye.
Right, we'll wrap this in out and
Yep.
we'll get number 2 in line. And
Yeah, I'll be here an hour early the next time.
so a big shout out to Platinum. I can't say it.
Platinum.
To Wally's paving. Platinum paving. Did I get it?
The platinum paving.
Best in the game. Also, a massive shout out to Paul at the Green Room. He's
Yep.
been super. This wouldn't happen with football. That's a given.
Can you just say
what?
fuck Henry
Aye,
West
why
and
have you
all
got that sellotaped?
I messaged them, mate, and I asked them for a wee bit of, not a sponsorship, but just a wee couple of bottles, because
Send them a
every
couple of bottles
every
for
single
sample.
fucking thing me, I'm shouting at out, so I've put tape over it today, and they're getting fuck all for me.
So when we release this episode, we're going to release the date for Alex's second one because I could
We'll be more
I
organised.
could
That was
honestly
my
spend a
fault.
full day with you and this.
Aye,
Well,
I can
we've
chat
only
for
scratched the
hours, man.
surface.
Aye,
There's a lot of people need to know this isn't about me, right? It's not about my life. My life story's out there, James English and stuff like that. You know, I touched on my life. My life's not that interesting these days. This is what I do. I do it all the time. I do it because I feel absolutely drawn to do it. Because there's a lot of lies getting told.
Aye.
The media are lying to us. They're lying about the safety of this country. This country in the next 10 years, mark my words, put it in record, the criminality is going to go through the roof, as is the rape and all the exploitation of children. It is rocketing now, and they're watering down and sanitising the crime figures to suit the narrative that we're one of the safest
I
countries
reckon
in
we're going
Europe.
to see the biggest growth in 2025. That's when the growth's
going to explode.
It's going to explode for 2025 onwards.
It's exploding now.
What's the main catalyst for that?
Because it's all done by design and it's all the plan. So you obviously bringing all the immigrants in and everything else. That big fluctuation of immigrants. Did you ever see one woman or child wearing these guys coming in these boats?
Very rarely.
I've worked all over the country on the railway and every hotel.
I know your diesel trains,
every
no?
man, the diesel start your fucking diesel.
You can't bring in millions of people from all over the world, right, and then cut your police force.
I know.
And cut all
Fighting age members.
It's
everything
all
that's
done by
important.
design.
You can't do that. So by bringing it in and inviting in everything else and the criminality, the bad element that's coming in, there's a hell of a lot of good people come in too. Unfortunately, there are no checks. Fundamentally, there are no checks. There are no cross-border checks because they're landing illegally, but landing illegally in the UK is apparently a crime.
You're bringing in rapists and paedophiles and they're not getting checked. All for these countries.
Of course.
But this
There are no
Agenda
checks.
2025 and Agenda 2030, that's all there in paper.
But it must make money.
Aye.
It must be making money by bringing it in.
Of course it will.
And who owns all the hotels now? All the hotels that were going out of business have all been bought up by hedge funds, boards of directors, right? All these wee hedge fund guys for London, for the city. It's all Tory backed. They're buying up all the hotels, all the guest houses. They're all privately owned, and then they take these big government tariffs. Will take every room you've got for the next 3 years, and they give them the cheque up front.
Aye. Make a fortune.
Make it make sense, man. No
Right,
chance
we're calling
of
this part one.
Aye.
We're not going to say. We're not going to ask. We're not going to ask Alex what's
I'm sorry
next.
for being late.
No,
you're all good.
we're
No,
going to wait. We're not going to ask you what's next for you because we'll get fucking number 2 up and running. So this is only part 1. So you need to chill in for part 2.
Need to turn the heat.
Where's the sponsor? This side of the camera.
But bottom right.
See
I'm
those,
going to platinum paving.
see the guys, the platinum paving. I don't need to prompt anybody, by the way.
Aye.
They don't know me if you had them. They've got a good name.
Are they the best in the business?
My mates food down there. They've done his.
There you-
drive,
there you-
they've got
there you go,
the
Willie.
workmanship's
Yeah,
banging.
There you go, Willie.
No, they do.
And he's
The workmanship's
a
really
guy,
good.
a guy who owns it's a good, baldy, good-looking guy like
I
me.
used
I
to
know.
do driveways, so I know the business.
There you go, man.
And I know who's good and I know who isn't.
There you
Do
go.
you two back to add it? And please say no. Get on.
Just
This is only part 1.
I stick in at school.
Staying at school. Sticking the railway.
Just watch for the diesel trains.
keep spreading your good message. Right?
Yes, of course.
I've seen you come for nothing and you're growing. Keep doing it. Stay genuine. Stay true to yourself. Don't become a TikTok salesman for anybody.
No, man.
Alex, if we get you next
He
week,
is legit. He's definitely legit.
Aye.
we get you next week. Because if you see I on camera,
You're saying he's legit? He try to sell me fucking rosemary hair oil out there?
No, he is legit because I can see how much he puts into it, you know. And he, you know, you get the flack, you get the bullets, you get the haters. That's just part and the parcel with social media.
Aye.
I've got my critics and I've got my haters as well, but I get a hell of a lot of support for Glasgow, you know, in Scotland in general, and down south I get support for everywhere. And the tide does turn eventually, you know. But the longer you stay in the game, people realise, well, maybe they are here for the right reasons. I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. This is my thing, and I'm going to see it through to the very end.
I'm
However
getting
it
messages
ends.
there and it's changing folks' lives. There was one I got yesterday, the person that's in 5 days clean, I thanks because my partner's starting to change his life just watching your videos, and then folk will message me and they've wrote, obviously I've messaged so many mental health pages, not one's get back to me, this guy get back to me straight away, and all the stuff he's told me, everything he's done, I've put and implemented into my life and he's changed my life. I think I had 3 of them yesterday. I done what they
That's your
message
payment,
about
by the
video
way.
post. Aye,
That's you paid in
my
full.
fee. Aye, 100%.
Because when I did my
that
YouTube
makes you
channel,
amazing.
when the first guy says, Alex, that video changed my life.
Aye, that's huge straight
And I
away.
say, well,
It's
you know, what did I say? And he's like, just, right, okay, you did all the work, but I just
that's-
prompted you. But that's your payment, that's you paid in
100%.
full.
That's what I said on my thing to this person. It's clean 5
done it
days.
all.
He's
Wait,
maybe
what?
not been clean in 5 years.
It's nothing to do with me. I says, aye, my wee videos give you that bit of enthusiasm and it's give you that energy to move forward. But you've made the decisions. You've done it all yourself. It's not me. I've only put a video there that you've watched that's resonated and clicked with you, and you've went, right, I'm going to do this now. I says, that's all I'm on to you. I'm just a wee kick up the arse to say to you, or the wee guy in your shoulder saying, right, let's go. You make all the hard work going and doing that. That's
Brilliant.
well, that's it. No, that's it. You're not saying anything. That's a nearly a fish for the first part, right?
Thank you for having
Right.
me.
Thank
No,
you.
Alex, you've been
Thank you, guys.
what I said at the start, I swear by it. I admire everything you do. I really do look up to you.
Same.
And I don't care what people's opinions.
I don't care that opinion on it either.
Appreciate you for coming on, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
You've definitely got to know.
That's the nail on a fish.